There is something almost suspicious about Shopify. It rarely dominates headlines. Its founder does not chase spotlight culture. Consumers don't brag about buying from Shopify. And yet Shopify sits quietly beneath millions of online brands, processing transactions, collecting payment fees, financing merchants, and shaping the structure of modern e-commerce. In 2025, Shopify merchants processed well over $250 billion in gross merchandise volume. The company's annual revenue crossed $7 billion, with a growing share coming not just from software subscriptions, but from payments, capital, and financial services layered into its ecosystem. But numbers don't explain the empire. What explains it is restraint. Shopify is not a story of expansion at all costs. It is a story of repeatedly refusing the obvious. The origin story is well known. Tobias Lütke built better software to sell snowboards online. Existing tools were insufficient, so he wrote his own. But that origin is almost irrelevant. What matters is the philosophical fork that followed. When they realized other merchants wanted the same software, they could have done something very normal, create a marketplace. Marketplaces were hot. eBay was powerful. Amazon was growing rapidly. The gravitational pull of aggregating demand was strong. Shopify rejected that path. That was not accidental. It was strategic renunciation. A marketplace centralizes buyers. It creates efficiency for consumers. But it also shifts power toward the platform. Rankings decide winners. Visibility becomes currency. Once you own the traffic, you control the outcome. Shopify decided not to own traffic. Instead, it chose to empower merchants to own their storefronts, their domains, their customer lists. That decision removed Shopify from the most brutal battlefield in e-commerce, consumer attention. Think about what that means. Amazon must continuously invest in demand. It must attract shoppers. It must optimize conversion at scale. It must manage reviews, logistics, fulfillment, and consumer trust. Shopify does not have to do any of that. It chose a harder path in one sense, empowering others rather than building its own brand, but it avoided the constant war for attention. That choice created something subtle: neutrality. Shopify could claim it would never compete with its merchants. It would not launch a marketplace ranking their products. It would not redirect buyers to alternatives. It would not commoditize brands under a unified front end. In a world dominated by platforms that absorb demand, that promise was powerful. But promises in technology are fragile. The interesting question is not why Shopify made that promise. It is why it managed to keep it. Because at multiple moments in its history, Shopify came dangerously close to becoming something else. Between 2016 and 2021, direct-to-consumer brands exploded. Social advertising through Facebook and Instagram made customer acquisition almost mechanical. With a few $1,000s and a decent product, entrepreneurs could launch globally in weeks. Shopify became the default infrastructure. Revenue soared from under $400 million to more than $4.6 billion. Merchant count crossed millions. Gross merchandise volume expanded into the hundreds of billions. At its peak, Shopify's market capitalization exceeded $150 billion. That kind of growth intoxicates companies. When valuation soars, ambition expands. And Shopify began to flirt with empire building in logistics. Amazon's true power is not just traffic. It is fulfillment. Its logistics network creates speed, reliability, and lock-in. Shopify saw this. If independent merchants could access Amazon-level fulfillment without joining Amazon's marketplace, Shopify could neutralize its biggest competitor's advantage. So Shopify launched the Shopify Fulfillment Network. It acquired warehouses. It invested capital. It hired aggressively. It was bold. It was expensive. And it was dangerous. Logistics is different from software. Software scales with near zero marginal cost. Warehouses do not. Software margins can exceed 70%. Logistics margins compress. Software companies enjoy operating leverage. Logistics companies fight operational complexity. Shopify had stepped onto Amazon's terrain. Then reality intervened. In 2021, Apple introduced App Tracking Transparency. Targeting precision collapsed. Advertising costs rose sharply. Many direct-to-consumer brands saw margins shrink. Shopify felt it indirectly. Growth slowed. Valuations fell. In 2022, Shopify stock dropped over 70% from its peak. The company faced a brutal question. Double down on capital-intensive logistics to compete with Amazon, or retreat and refocus? This was the defining moment. Many companies mistake expansion for strength. When threatened, they expand harder. Shopify did the opposite. In 2023, it sold most of its logistics operations to Flexport. It cut workforce. It abandoned warehouse-for-warehouse competition. To outsiders, it looked like contraction. Inside strategy, it was discipline. Shopify remembered what it was. Not a retailer, not a fulfillment empire. Infrastructure. And infrastructure wins through leverage, not asset accumulation. The real leverage was payments. Shopify payments appeared convenient. In reality, it was structural. 2 or 3% per transaction seems minor, but when gross merchandise volume reaches hundreds of billions, that percentage becomes enormous. More importantly, payments embed control. Once merchants process revenue through native payments, switching becomes painful. Reconciliation, reporting, refunds, fraud systems, all integrated. Shopify was not raising subscription prices to grow. It was quietly increasing take rate through transactions. And payments generate data. Transaction data reveals seasonality, growth velocity, cash flow patterns. From that data emerged Shopify Capital. Now Shopify was not just enabling sales, it was financing expansion. And merchants did not see this as predatory. They saw it as helpful. That psychological distinction matters. Shopify's genius was aligning financial integration with empowerment narrative. We are here to help entrepreneurs. And often, that was true. But behind that help was deepening integration. The rails were reinforced. Shopify did not need consumers to know its name. Its invisibility protected it. When a brand failed, Shopify remained. When a marketing trend collapsed, Shopify remained. When a product category saturated, Shopify remained. It sits upstream, like a toll road. Traffic flows. Shopify collects. Empire, behind the scenes, requires continuous calibration. It could centralize demand tomorrow. It could raise take rates aggressively. It could privilege large merchants. Each would increase control. Each would erode neutrality. So far, it has resisted. Its empire was not built by dominating headlines. It was built by declining temptation. In technology, the hardest decision is not what to build. It is what to avoid. Shopify avoided traffic wars, avoided marketplace manipulation, avoided overcommitting to logistics, avoided becoming the consumer brand. Each avoidance preserved leverage. Most companies chase power through expansion. Shopify accumulated power by refusing it. Sometimes, empire is not built in front of an audience. It is built in the plumbing. And plumbing, when designed well, becomes indispensable, precisely because no one thinks about it.